This is such an important video for business people to understand the impact of how business analysis done right can save your business or kill it. It's a little long, but try to watch through to the end because the value you will get is so huge when I give you a clear example of how in the real world, businesses waste millions of dollars in software all the time without even realizing it. In a previous post, I explained how a successful real estate veteran I know decided not to work with me initially because of my price tag, and then after 6 months of development and countless hours of his time put into it, without much movement forward in the right direction, he changed his mind and is working with me now. So I had Zoom meetings with him and two others in his project, each for about 30 minutes. So the developer, the owner, and a guy who handles the financials. Within 3 days of gathering and analyzing the requirements, I was able to see that the entire planned approach, both in terms of the last 6 months of development and everything he was planning and wanting to get done moving forward, didn't make sense. I could see this because I've been both a business analyst and a software engineer for many years. I can see clearly in minutes or hours what others, evidently, can't see after 6 or more months of development. Now, think about this for a moment. You have a group of intelligent people, some business savvy, others tech savvy, and they're spending 6 months moving forward in a direction that's a very bad idea. If I didn't come in, then like the majority of software projects, they would have continued trying to build out bits and pieces over months, very slowly realizing every time they start on a new feature, it opens up a bunch of cases and scenarios they hadn't thought of, stretching on and on. And then down the line, after the time and money has already been wasted, they would, as happens with many software projects, end up scrapping it when it doesn't result in a good solution to their business problems. Let me give you a concrete example of exactly what happened here. The business person's thinking process, which is always the case for every business person I've ever met, will go something like this. As part of this system, I'd like a simple way for salespeople to enter some basic information about a lead, and then it should sync with the software we're using. It's pretty simple, just a couple of basic questions. Sounds relatively simple, right? Well, here's how that translates in my mind and how I was able to identify the major problem. Creating a lead requires a form to fill in the lead's information. It would also require a view page to see the lead's information after, and it also needs to be possible to edit the lead's information. He'll also want to be able to see all the leads in a list, right? He needs to be able to add new leads, delete leads, and set follow-ups. But in order to do this, the system also requires that his employees can log in and log out and sign up. But when it comes to signing up, it has to be on an invitation-only basis because he doesn't want random people being able to sign up to his company's internal management system. So he needs to be able to see the list of employees and each employee's information and even remove employees from the system. But then it gets even more complicated because obviously not all employees should be able to remove other employees, right? So this means you also need a permission structure in place to be able to control who has access to certain features and who doesn't. So what I just ran through is the tip of the iceberg, and in my preliminary analysis, there were at least 4 other areas, aside from lead management, which he believed would be simple, but turned out a lot more complex when I laid it out. So what I told him is that by pursuing this path, the greatest likelihood is that it will take months or even a year or longer, a lot of investment, but he'll be more likely to abandon it along the way than to see all those features through to completion, especially when he starts to really feel the timelines and mounting costs adding up. So circling back, in 3 days of analysis, I determined that the last 6 months of development was likely wasted and that all of the development that they were planning on doing over the next 6 to 12 months or whatever would have likely been a waste. Now my next step here is to gather new requirements based on the adjusted plan and come up with a solution for him that will solve his business needs in a reasonable time frame without him going broke in the process. If you think this kind of scenario is uncommon, I can tell you it's the norm. And this is why I always say that business analysis is the most important part of any software project. It's the part that's usually skipped or done badly, and it's the part that dictates how everything else after is going to go. So do yourself a favor and always get the business analysis done right before you do anything else. I hope this brought you value.